Arestado po ang isang pulis dahil sa panghahalay umano sa isang dalagita.
Patuloy po ang pagtaas ng bilang ng mga batang naaabuso at sinasaktan.
Ilang beses pinwersa ng babae ang boyfriend na makipag-sex sa kanya. Iban nilang
Hi guys, good morning. My name is Euro Blans and I'm with Justin Sisbino, Daven Causo, Lloyd Villasanta, Aldrich Bonostro, Wilson Cuadro, and Jessica Marie Idio to uncover the rising cases of gender-based violence including rape, sexual harassment, and abuse. Our objectives is to raise awareness about gender-based violence and recognizing the impact of gender-based violence on victims, and to understand the reason behind gender-based violence. And we're going to promote gender equality and respect. And also, we're going to enumerate ways to prevent rape, sexual harassment, and abuse. And we're going to educate people on the laws and rights related to gender-based violence.
Gender-based violence, or the GBV, refers to harmful acts directed at individuals based on gender. So as we learned in our USAF subject, gender is a psychological aspect where an individual has the right to choose their own gender identity and how they want to be perceived or recognized by others. So for example, you are biologically male but your hearts and minds align more with being female or feminine. So that's why in terms of gender-based violence, it is broad that it does not only focus on violence against male and female, but also focus on violence against members of LGBTQIA+ community. It includes rape, sexual harassment, and abuse.
Good day everyone! So let us proceed to the forms of gender-based violence. As you can see sa PPT namin, we have 4 forms of gender-based violence na nilagay, which are the physical, sexual, psychological, and economic violence. Nilagay namin siya to differentiate it and malaman yung differences nilang 4 and also yung mga nakapaloob doon na violence. So let us start with the physical violence. So sa physical, ito yung act that causes bodily harm or injury sa isang tao. Like for example, choking, slapping, punching, part na siya ng physical violence. And also paggamit ng weapon sa isang tao or deadly weapon sa isang tao. Like kunyari pagsaksak, ganun. Part na siya ng physical violence. While yung sexual violence naman, ito yung mga unwanted or without consent na ginagawa natin sa isang tao. Like yung sexual behavior, ganyan natin sa isang tao. Like rape, sexual harassment, part siya ng sexual violence. And also, example na lang is, kunyari, nag-touch ako ng private part ng isang guy without his consent and hindi kami magkakilala. So, part na siya ng sexual violence. Kino-consider siya na sexual violence. And also, let's normalize din na hindi lang yung babae yung nasa sexual lies, like the sexual harass, kundi yung mga lalaki din dito sa Pilipinas. Next is psychological violence. Ito naman yung, dito naman pumapasok yung mental health natin and yung emotional well-being natin as a person, like na-harm na and na a-abuse na yung mental well-being natin as a person. Like for example, manipulation, gaslighting, part na siya nun, and mga insults, threats, part na siya ng psychological violence. So lastly is the economic violence. So ano nga ba yung economic violence? Yung economic violence, ito yung controlling a person's financial resources to limit their independence. Like for example, alam naman natin na yung mga OFW natin sa ibang bansa is na-abuse din talaga sila. And also dito din sa Pilipinas may nangyaring incidents na ganun. Like for example, yun nga, with holding money, yung example natin for this form. Like, pinagkakait yung pera na nararapat sa kanya. For example, dapat sasahod na siya this month, but hindi binigay ng boss niya yung sahod niya. Like, pinagkait ng boss niya yung sahod or pera na dapat sa kanya and para dun sa kasambahay. Example siya ng economic violence. Madami pa, like preventing someone from working, sabotaging financial stability. Lahat yun is part ng economic violence. Thank you. That's all for the forms of gender-based violence. I hope you listen and understand the differences of the 4 forms of gender-based violence. And now, I will introduce you to our next reporter, Mr. Sisbino.
So, as technology advances, more instances of such violence are also occurring. And one of these is the online gender-based violence, or the OGBV, that refers to harmful actions aimed at people because of their gender and carried out through online platforms or technology. So in simple terms, this OGBV refers to gender-based violence specifically occurring online. So let's proceed with the examples of OGBV. The first one is the cyberbullying that involves sending intimidating and threatening messages to individuals based on their gender. So this is a bullying occurring online. Next is cyberstalking that refers to repeatedly monitoring or contacting someone online in a manner that causes fear or distress. So, usually nangyayari ito sa social media natin na kung yung isang tao ay stalk sa account natin para malaman kung ano yung ginagawa natin, na kung sumobra ay nakakapag-cause na ng fear or distress, kaya hina-hina lang sa pag-stalk. And next is hacking and surveillance, unauthorized access to someone's digital devices or accounts to monitor or control them. So kung aware kayo sa film ng Korean na Unlocked, na kung saan yung babae ay nagpaayos ng kanyang cellphone sa isang store, and yung hacker pala yung umayos ng kanyang cellphone, na ayun, naayos yung cellphone niya pero namamonitor ng hacker kung ano ginagawa niya sa phone niya, and na-access niya yung mga personal information niya katulad sa mga bangko, ganun, na na-access na ng hacker and ninakawan na siya. So next is trafficking and exploitation. It is using online platforms to exploit individuals sexually or for labor, often targeting vulnerable populations. So next is the deepfake pornography. So kung aware kayo sa deepfake pornography, ito yung paggamit ng artificial intelligence para ilagay yung mukha ng isang tao sa katawan ng isang tao, na to make it appear that they are engaging in acts that they never participated in. So for example, nilagay yung itsura mo sa isang hubad na larawan na katawan pala para masabi na may nudes ka online. And next is image-based abuse. It's also known as the revenge porn kasi usually nangyayari ito sa mga naging magjowa na naghiwalay, and yung lalaki kinalat yung hubad na larawan ng kanyang ex para lang makagante, kaya tinawag siyang revenge porn. And lastly, the non-consensual sexting, sending unsolicited explicit messages or images to someone without their consent. So ito yung kapag nagsisend ng mga private parts yung isang lalaki sa babae na ayaw naman ng babae or wala siyang consent.
Example of gender-based violence. First is rape, forcing someone into sexual acts without their consent, often using threats or violence. Sa rape naman ay manggagalaw sila without consent, at kapag pumalag ka, gagamitan ka na nila ng pwersa or magbabanta na papatayin ka. Second is sexual harassment, unwanted sexual actions or words that make someone feel uncomfortable, especially in places like work, school, or public areas. Sa sexual harassment naman ay kunwari nasa galaan ka or saan ka pang lugar, tapos may lumapit sa'yo na hindi mo naman kakilala, tapos bigla ka niyang kinausap, tapos feel mo di ka komportable dito kasi nga di mo naman siya kakilala, tapos ikaw naman pa naiiwas, at kapag naramdaman na niya na iniiwasan mo siya, dito niya nagagawin yung panghaharas. Third is abuse, using action to control or harm someone. Sa abuse naman ay example, may minor na babae, tapos may tito siyang siraulo, na paulit-ulit siyang ginagalaw or ginagaasa. Dahil minor pa ito, madali lang itong kontrolin na wag magsumbong. Dahil kapag nagsumbong ito, pagbabantaan siya or sasaktan siya.
And now, ipapanood namin sa inyo yung documentary ni Clara David na Kapalit ng Katahimikan to enlighten you na kung ano ba yung mga nangyayaring abuse, violence, and harassment dito sa Pilipinas. So, let's watch this.
So just a short recap of the documentary. Kung saan yung mga tituray ay may sariling batas na sinusunod. Kung saan yung rape cases sa kanila is parang hindi ganun ka-big deal. Na makikita natin sa kaso nga ni Dolores na inareglo lamang sila ng 6,000 pesos at isang kabayo as a compensation na sa panggagahasang ginawa sa kanya. And ayun yung naging desisyon ng tribal council sa kanila. And the second time na may nangyaring panggagahasa sa kanya, yung naging solusyon naman ng tribal council is ipakasal sa kanya yung nang-rape sa kanya dahil nabuntis siya. So, ayun, napaka-immoral. And the next case yung kay Marisol and Jasmine na paulit-ulit silang inabuso ng kanilang uncle. Pero this time na isumbong sa pulisya and napakulong yung uncle niya. So, ayun, pinakita lang sa documentary na mas prone ang gender-based violence sa mga marginalized groups. So, kasi may sarili silang batas or rules na sinusunod. And pinakita rin sa documentary na noong 2023 daw, over 10,000 women in the Philippines were reported as rape victims. So, nag-equate ito sa isang babae ang ginagahasa kada oras na hina-highlight kung gaano kalala ang gender-based violence sa Pilipinas. And additionally, the Philippine National Police indicate that only 1 out of 10 cases of violence against women is reported. So yung 10,000 cases of rape victims na na-report is possibly 1 out of 10 cases lang yun ng violence against women na na-report, which is just a 10%, and the other 90% is hindi pa alam at hindi pinapaalam ng mga biktima sa mga otoridad, na nagsasuggest that cultural stigma and fear of victim blaming contribute to significantly to underreporting. GBV in the Philippines. GBV cases are rising in the Philippines, especially during the pandemic. Lack of awareness and stigma prevent victims from reporting. Alarming statistics in March 2020 to August 2021, the Philippine Commission on Women reported over 18,145 violation against women cases. So yung March 2020, dito nag-start yung lockdown hanggang August 2021 na nag-cause ng maraming cases ng violation against women na umabot ng 18,145 cases. And yung challenges, fear, stigma, and lack of legal knowledge prevent victims from reporting. So naipakita na rin ito sa documentary na mayroong fear, stigma, and lack of knowledge yung mga marginalized group na dahilan na hindi pag-report ng kaso ni Dolores. Call to action: awareness campaigns, educational programs, and social media advocacy are crucial.
The Philippine National Police or PNP reported 11,585 cases of violence against women or VAW in 2023. These cases involves the Anti-Violence Against Women and Their Children Act of 2004, RA 9262, is a Philippine law designed to protect women and their children against various forms of abuse, including physical, psychological, and sexual economic violence. It aims to promote the safety and dignity of women and children, ensuring their rights are upheld. The second one is the Anti-Rape Law of 1997, or RA 8353. Is a Philippine law that redefines rape as a crime against person rather than just a crime against chastity. RA 8353 imposes severe penalties including reclusion perpetua, that's up to 40 years of imprisonment to ensure justice for victims and deter offenders. The Safe Space Act RA 11313, also known as the Bawal Bastos, is a law that defines and aims to prevent and punish gender-based sexual harassment in public places, workplaces, schools, and even online platforms. It penalizes acts such as catcalling, wolf whistling, stalking, and online harassment. The Philippine Commission on Women, or PCW, says that only 1 out of 10 cases is reported to authorities based on the findings of PNP. One of the main reasons why is the fear of shame, fear of revenge, and lack of trust in our authorities. Many victims choose to keep the issue within their families, which allows the violence to continue. So some of our fellow Filipinos nananahimik lamang sa 10 kaso na re-record ng PNP, isa lamang po ang nagsusumbong. So mas natatakot sila i-judge ng tao, nahihiya, natatakot baka gantihan sila ng gumawa sa kanila ng ganun. The 2013 National Demographic and Health Survey, or NDHS, showed that 1 in 5 women aged 15 to 49 experience physical violence starting from the age of 15. Younger women were affected more, with 13.6% of those aged 15 to 19 experiencing physical violence, while 3.5% of women aged 40 to 49 faced it. Women aged 15 to 49 have experienced the following: physical violence during pregnancy, 4.2%, sexual violence since age 15, 6.3%, and emotional violence, 1 in 5 every married woman. Only about 30% of women and girls who have experienced violence have sought help to stop it. In 2021, the Philippine National Police recorded 8,900 cases of domestic violence against women under the Violence Against Women and Children Act of RA 9262, while only 21 incidents involving male victims were reported during the same period. So, base po sa National Demographic and Health Survey, or NDHS, mas malaki po ang porsyento ng edad 15 hanggang 19 na babae ang nakaka-experience ng physical violence o abuso. So, meron itong 13.6%. So, tumataas po ito kada taon. Dahil po sa kadahilan ng natatakot sila magsumbong, natatakot sila gantihan, at wala pong silang tiwala sa ating mga otoridad.
Alam mo ba, maraming kababayang Pilipina edad 15 hanggang 49 nang nakakaranas pa rin ng iba't ibang uri ng karahasan. 4.2% sa kanilang nakaranas ng physical violence kahit na buntis pa sila. 6.3% ang nakaranas ng sexual violence simula pa nung sila 15 years old, at ang pinakamasakit, isa sa bawat 5 kababaihang may asawa ay nakaranas ng emotional abuse. Pero sa kabila ng lahat ng ito, 34% lang ang talagang humingi ng tulong para mapatigil ang karahasan. Noong 2021, ayon sa National Police, mahigit 8,900 ang kaso ng domestic violence laban sa kababaihan ang naitala sa ilalim ng Violence Against Women and Children Act, o RA 9262. Habang sa parehong taon, 21 lang ang naitalang kaso na kinasangkutan ng mga lalaking biktima. Hindi lang ito basta statistics, ito ay tunay na kwento, takot, sakit, at katahimikan.
So let's proceed to the impact on victims. As you watch yung documentary, of course, madami tayong nakuha doon and na-realize na hindi lang siya sa mga normal na tao nangyayari, but doon din sa mga may special childs, may PWD, and of course, mga bata din, like minor de edad. So, ano ba yung impact nito sa mga victims? Pwede sila mag-suffer sa physical, psychological, and emotional. And of course, yun nga, syempre dadalhin nila yun hanggang pagtanda nila. Like, may traumatic experience na sila sa mga ganon, despair, pwede sila magkaroon ng PTSD, and also anxiety. So yun nga, example ko lang din yung sinabi ni Euro na 1 in 10 incidents lang yung na re-report. Kasi nga, mostly sa victims natin is natatakot sila and nahihiya sila. Like, may fear of shame na sila, ganon. That's why, hindi sila nakakapagsumbong sa kinauukulan. Dahil nga, it's either din na tinret sila nung gumawa sila ng karumal-dumal sa kanila na ganon, like, papatayin sila or yung pamilya nila. Kaya, wag natin i-invalidate yung feelings or yung choices nila ng mga biktima na hindi agad nagsumbong or nagsalita or nag-speak up kasi nga natatakot sila na may mangyari sa kanila and sa pamilya nila. Mostly ganun yung mga situations na nangyayari sa mga victims natin. Kaya nag-provide kami ng 2 cases para mas lalong maintindihan nyo kung ano nga ba yung mga naging impact sa victims natin, yung mga gantong karumal-dumal na nangyayari sa Pilipinas. So, nag-provide kami 2 cases to, the Jennifer Laudez murder and the Apollo Kibuloy abuse scandal. So, let's proceed to the example na itatakel ni Mr. Aldrich Bonostro and Mr. Cicilino.
The case of Jennifer Laude. A victim of transphobic violence, Jennifer Laude, 26-year-old Filipino transgender woman, was murdered on October 11, 2014 by U.S. Marine Joseph Scott Pemberton in Olongapo City. She met Pemberton at a bar and went with him to a hotel. Upon discovering that she was transgender, Pemberton violently attacked her, drowning her in a toilet bowl. Nagkakilala daw si Pemberton at Jennifer Laude sa bar. Sumama daw si Jennifer Laude kay Pemberton's na pumunta sa hotel. At na-discover daw ni Pemberton na transgender si Jennifer Laude at inatake niya ito. Nilunod ito sa bowl. His reaction is a clear case of transphobic gender-based violence where LGBTQ individual face deadly consequences for their identity. Ang kaso ni Jennifer Laude ay nanatiling simbolo ng paglaban sa transphobia, inustisya at impluwensyang dayuhan sa soberanya ng Pilipinas, bagamat kalunos-lunos ang pagpatay sa kanya. Nagapoy ito ng mahalagang pag-uusap tungkol sa karapatang pantao, mga legal na reforma at proteksyon ng mga marginalized na komunidad.
So another case of gender-based violence in the Philippines is the case of Apollo Kibuloy, the self-proclaimed appointed son of God. He is a founder of the Kingdom of Jesus Christ or the KOJC and Children's Joy Foundation Incorporated or the CJFI. So may pending cases si Kibuloy sa US at the same time may pending cases rin siya dito sa Pilipinas. So, noong 2021, he and his group were officially accused in the US of running a sex trafficking operation, forcing women and underage girls into sexual acts, using threats of harm and eternal damnation. He is placed on the Federal Bureau of Investigation's Most Wanted list dahil sa pagre-recruit niya ng mga underage girls para magkaroon ng sexual interaction sa kanila. At sa Pilipinas, Kibuloy is facing several charges like rape, cyber libel, qualified human trafficking, and child sexual abuse. So, nung August 2024, nagpadala yung mga otoridad ng Pilipinas ng 2,000 police officers para hulihin si Kibuloy at pinotektahan siya ng mga members ng kanyang church and maraming namatay. So, pero nagmatigas pa rin siya at hindi siya sumuko. Pero nung September 2024 ay sumuko rin naman siya sa mga otoridad at kasalukuyang nasa Pasig City Jail na po siya ngayon. And since may may pending cases din siya sa United States. Kapag naglabas ng extradition request ang US sa Pilipinas and maaprubahan ito, is lilitisin si Kibuloy sa US.
Hello, my name is Lloyd Nicolas Arbelia Santa, and I will be talking about some of the causes of gender-based violence. First, there's gender inequality, which is typically formed more against women comparatively to men. Due to the way we as humans have developed as a civilization, men are usually seen as the protectors, as they have the power to stand up to threats, whatever those can be, and women are seen as the protected because of not only of our biological differences, but also to their nature of being most responsible for the young, leading to power dynamics that gives more power to the men in society. Following this, due to the power imbalance that could go both ways depending on the situation, leads to the next cause, victim blaming. As we are people, there comes a tendency for us to fear the consequences of our actions, causing the second case we're discussing right now, where the perpetrator blames the victim of causing the incident and shifts responsibility of their actions onto them. And due to our third cause, they might even get away with it altogether, which discourages other victims from reaching out, fearing judgment and retaliation. Now, the third cause is weak law enforcement. Whatever the reason for their lackluster performance, there is no doubt that there are problems when the cases do go to the authorities. Whether it's corruption, inconsistent application of the law itself, the sheer volume of cases being presented, the number of false cases within it, or even the punishments themselves being ineffective at dealing with the perpetrators, the scenario where they can get away with it isn't slim to none, which can be a travesty for the real victims suffering through this abuse. Finally, we have perpetuating harmful norms. As explained before, gender-based violence stems from violence, this cause being due to gender, which stems further to the difference in power between two or multiple parties, when words don't matter as much anymore. That power imbalance comes from our culture, our beliefs, or our environment, justifying such actions or emboldening the aggressors using our preconceived norms, which, as the name implies, perpetuates it further down the line, influencing more people as the time goes by. That's it for now. I'll be returning to discuss the next topic in a bit. Moving on to the next reporter. Thank you.
Ang Philippine Commission on Women o PCW ang pangunahing ahensya na gumagawa ng mga policy at nagko-coordinate ng mga programa para sa kapakanan ng mga kababaihan. Layunin nitong siguraduhin may patupad ang mga batas at proyekto para sa empowerment ng mga kababaihan sa buong bansa. Si Olivia Rodrigo ay nag-donate ng mahigit $2 million mula sa kanyang God's World Tour para suportahan ang mga women's charity sa buong mundo, kabilang na ang ilang organisasyon dito sa Pilipinas.
LGBTQ advocacy and equality efforts. Various organizations and advocates actively promote LGBTQ rights and gender equality in the Philippines, ensuring equal opportunities and protection for all gender identities. Ito yung organisasyon na tagapagpataguyod para isulong ang mga karapatan ng LGBTQ at pagkapantay-pantay ng kasarian sa Pilipinas na nagsisikap na matiyak ang pantay na pagkakataon at mga legal na protection para sa lahat ng pagkakakilanlan ng kasarian.
So, proceed na tayo sa ways to promote equality and prevent GBV as a student. So, i-clear ko lang na hindi lahat yon mape-prevent natin. Like, hindi natin control yon yung mga nangyaring harassment, violence, and abuse sa Pilipinas. So, nandito lang kami to tackle na kung paano ba natin mape-prevent as a student or paano tayo makaka-help to promote equality dito sa environment na ginagalawan natin, yung mga public spaces na pinag-sharean natin bawat isa. So, number 1, educate yourself and others. Learn about gender equality and share knowledge to discussions or campaigns. Like, for example, sa gender equality, nag-groupings kayo ng mga kaklase mo. Tapos, syempre, bumili kayo ng pansit canton. Tapos, uminom kayo ng soft drink. Syempre, ang daming hugasin. Tapos, ilan pa kayo members sa group. Tapos, sabi ng kaklase mong lalaki, oh, girls, kayo na maghugas ng pinggan. Kasi, kumbaga, toka nyo na yan, di ba? Kasi, dyan tayo di ba? Sa house natin mostly, di ba? Tayo yung tagahugas ang mga babae. So, hindi dapat ganun mga boys. Dapat matuto din kayo maghugas ng plato, di ba? Gender equality. So, number 2, speak up. Call out sexist joke, harassment, and discrimination when you see them. Hindi yung susuportahan pa natin yung nang didiskrimina. Hindi dapat ganun. Kumbaga, isumbong na natin agad pag may nakita tayong ganun. And speak up. If hindi niya kaya mag-speak up, tayo yung mag-speak up para dun sa biktima. Number 3, support victim. Offer help, listen without judgment, and encourage reporting of GBV cases. So, marami tayong victims neto. Kumbaga, pag may kilala tayo na biktima neto, ng ganito, it's either sa family, sa friends, or what, wag naman sana, di ba? Mag-offer tayo ng help. Like, yun nga yung sabi ko kanina, if ever man na hindi sila nagsumbong agad, hindi sila nag-speak up agad, wag natin i-invalidate or wag natin sila questionin na bakit hindi sila nagsumbong agad sa mga police, ganyan, or sa parents, or sa kinauukulan. Huwag natin ganun, huwag natin i-invalidate. Kumbaga, i-understand natin yung choice na pinili nila and yung feelings nila kung bakit nila hindi nila nasabi agad yon. Promote equal opportunities, encourage inclusivity in leadership, sports, and leadership. Maging equal tayo sa lahat and i-promote natin yung equal opportunities sa lahat. Lastly is number 5, advocate for safe spaces, push for gender-sensitive policies and safe reporting system in school. So, napakahalaga nito for us para maging safe tayong lahat, hindi lang sa public spaces and sa school din. And also, if magkakaroon man ng ganito, like ipupush natin yung mga gender-sensitive policies, hindi lang natin to maa-adapt sa school Kumbaga, maa-adapt din natin to pag nasa bahay tayo. Pwede natin to maturo sa parents natin, sa mga kapatid natin. And also, practicein na natin yung pagiging pag-speak up. Kumbaga, alam niyo yun, yung reporting system natin sa school. Kumbaga, pag may nakita na tayong na-discriminate, ganon, isumbong natin agad. So, yun lang for the ways to promote equality and prevent GBV as a students or college students.
Common gender equality issues in school. Number 1. Stereotypes in subject and activities. Boys are often encouraged to take STEM subject, science, technology, engineering, and math, while girls are pushed towards arts and humanities. Some schools discourage boys from joining dance, cooking, or caregiving activities, labeling them as for girls. In many schools, gender stereotypes influence student subject choices and extracurricular activities. These stereotypes shapes expectations about what boys and girls should be interested in, often limiting their potential and career aspiration. Number 2. Unequal opportunities in leadership and sports leadership roles in student councils and organized are sometimes dominated by boys, while girls may be overlooked. Some sports like basketball and soccer receive more funding and support than other traditionally played by girls. Ang mga lalaki madalas na hinihikayat na umuha ng mga posisyon sa pamumuno, habang ang mga babae ay maaaring hindi pansinin o masiraan ng loob. Sa tulad na paraan, ang mga sports na pinangungunahan ng mga lalaki ay may posibilidad na makatanggap ng mas maraming mapagkukunan at mapagkilala kumpara sa mga tradisyon na nilalaro ng mga batang babae. Number 3. Dress code. Discrimination. Strict dress code often targets girls, enforcing rules about skirt length, sleeves, tops, or hair length, while boys have fewer restrictions. Some schools prevent students from expressing their gender identity through clothing. Ang mga dress code sa paaralan ay kadalasang papatibay sa hindi pagkapantay-pantay na kasarian sa pamamagitan ng paglagay ng mas mahigpit na mga panuntunan sa mga babae habang binibigyan ng mga lalaki ng higit na kalayaan. Maaari ding limitahan ng mga patakarang ito ang pagpapahayag ng kasarian na pumipigil sa mga mag-aaral na magbihis sa paraang naayon sa kanilang pagkakakilanlan.
Sexual harassment and gender-based violence. Sa sexual harassment at gender-based violence naman ay nagbibigay ng matinding epekto sa mga biktima kasi nga nakakaranas sila ng pamimisikal o discrimination dahil isa silang LGBT. Sa lugar tulad ng mga school, dahil dito halos nangyayari ang mga bullying. Lack of gender-inclusive facilities and policies. Some schools do not have gender-neutral restroom, make it difficult for LGBTQ students to feel safe. Marami kasing public place na walang restroom para sa LGBTQ para sana maiwasan ang mga discrimination. Dahil dito, maraming LGBTQ ang nahihirapan or hindi komportable na gumamit ng panglalaking CR. Policies may not include protections for students of diverse gender identities and expressions. Maraming institution ang walang malinaw na patakaran na nagpoprotekta sa karapatan ng bawat kasarian. Halimbawa, maaaring walang anti-discrimination policies sa paaralan, kaya't may mga individual na nakakaranas ng gender-based violence, harassment, or inequality.
Hello again. I will now be explaining ways we can prevent gender-based violence. Now, firstly, normalizing conversations about consent. Remember back when I talked about culture? This is related to that. As you know, whenever conversations about anything sexual, or in this case, simply about boundaries, come to be the topic of interaction, there comes a strange stigma attached to it. The notion that it's always inappropriate. The byproduct of that being nobody taking it that seriously and devolving into degeneracy and crudeness. Missing the point of establishing such boundaries in the first place, or even discussing them with others you don't know as well. There also comes the issue of people misunderstanding consent. That silence or lack of resistance isn't a yes, and the more prevalent issue, no means no, being not understood altogether. The lack of education or tact or even seriousness in handling that topic can be corrected by teaching these things so they can understand what it means and look at it with a straight face. That you can also encourage talking about boundaries like this without childishness from a young age, even if it's a bit presumptuous to expect this from children. Next, empowering bystanders to act. You've all heard of the bystander effect, right? The one where people freeze at the moment, expecting others to take their place when trouble arises. Well, to combat that, you can also prevent gender-based violence by knowing this and stealing that resolve and being the one to help, and also knowing how to safely intervene if you do encounter something like this out there wherever it may occur. First, distract. Change the subject and separate the two so no more harm can be done. Then, support the victim or offer help in the confrontation and comfort them after it's been dealt. Then, report the altercation to the police or some other higher power to deal with the matter. Okay, redefining masculinity and femininity. What does this mean? It means to challenge the preconceived notions that you've thought of. Being in their shoes for once, that you wouldn't want to be on the receiving end of it if you were the victim of the scenario. To think about what it means to be the dominant one over what you perceive is lesser. To stand on your own when you believe that you have no other options to go, even when you think those options don't do enough to help you, and more importantly, to promote the perception that we are all equal even with our differences. That no group should have more power over the other. That the other deserves to be the one on top, at top of the totem pole after the injustice they've endured for so long. To respect each other no matter where you find yourself in the situation, and to better understand each other in relation. Other than that, there's also strengthened laws and accountability. You can help prevent gender-based violence by directly supporting laws and policies that you believe help stop it no matter how light it can be. One step closer is still closer than taking no steps at all. By believing in the ones that protect the survivors of such incidents and ensuring that justice does come to the perpetrators swiftly will bring their minds more at ease after such transgressions. Last but not least, use social media for advocacy. This is self-explanatory. By letting more people know and be more aware of such problems, you help spread the ideas of preventing it to those like-minded individuals who are not yet informed of such travesties. That, and by calling out such abuses and supporting movements that go against the violence, will help in preventing it altogether, even if only by a smidge. Now, once again, I am Lloyd Nicholas Santa, and this has been Preventing Abuse from Gender-Based Violence. Thank you for listening. Moving on to the next report.
Thank you, Mr. Villasanta. So, proceed na tayo sa knowing your rights or knowing our rights. So, maganda rin na malaman natin to para alam natin yung power na hinuhold natin, di ba? So, number 1, RA 9262, Anti-Violence Against Women and Their Children Act of 2004. Year implemented 2004, implemented by President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo. Why it was implemented? Kasi before, nung hindi pa siya napapatupad, yung domestic violence or yung nangyayari sa loob ng bahay natin na violence is nakikita lang to as a private matter, which is crime na pala. Kaya madami nagsasuffered na women and children in silence. Kasi nga wala tayong legal protection. Kaya itong RA 9262 nag-provide siya ng legal remedies such as protection, orders, penalties for abusers, and sinusuportahan niya din yung mga victims. Number 2, RA 11313 Safe Spaces Act, Bawal Bastos Law of 2019, year implemented 2019, implemented by President Rodrigo Duterte. Why it was implemented? To address gender-based harassment in public spaces, workplaces, schools, and online platforms. So, bakit nga ba siya ulit na-implement? Kasi, yung mga nangyayaring harassment sa public spaces talaga before is were not punishable by law. That's why yung mga victims natin is nafe-feel nila na powerless sila. That's why in-implement to para, alam niyo yun, maramdaman ng mga tao na ang public spaces natin is safe and magkaroon din ng hustisya yung mga nabibiktim sa mga ganitong lugar, sa public spaces, workplaces, schools, and online platform. So, number 3 is RA 8353 Anti-Rape Law of 1997. Year implemented 1997, implemented by Fidel V. Ramos. So, bakit siya na-implement? Short explanation na lang kasi discuss na siya ni Euro kanina. Na-implement siya to redefine the rape as a crime against person rather than chastity and expand its definition to include coercion, threats, and marital rape. So, ang example nito is, kunyari mag-asawa kayo and pinilit ka niya makipagtalik kahit ayaw mo. Consider na siya as rape. Yun yung example ng law na to. RA 7877 or Anti-Sexual Harassment Act of 1995. Pinatupad siya para pigilan and parusahan yung mga sexual harassment sa iba't ibang lugar. Like for example, yun nga, sa school, sa training institution, or sa office man yan. And dinalayon din ito na protektahan yung mga individual laban sa mga hindi kaayon-ayon na kilos or pang-aabuso. Lalo na yung kung abuse na yun is nanggagaling sa mga taong may otoridad or makakapangyarihan sila. So, ayun yung nilalayan ng act na to. And that's all for the 4 rights that we provided. So, let's proceed to Justin Sisbino for additional.
So, additional information lang. As we all know, walang specific na batas na naglalayon na protektahan ng mga kalalakihan, unlike sa mga kababaihan na may RA 9262 ay yung Anti-Violence Against Women and Their Children Act of 2004. Pero gumagawa na ng aksyon ang ating kongreso patungkol dito since men can be abused too. So, naglabas sila ng House Bill 1365 na final noong July 2022 pero hindi pa siya aprobado. And ang layunin nito ay i-expand yung RA 9262 na maging sahop na rin ang mga kalalakihan, pati na rin ang mga members ng LGBTQIA+ community.
Thank you everyone. That's all for today. I hope you listen and you understand something about our topic, which is the rising case of gender-based violence. Thank you.